dear students, welcome back to the another class of history. So today we'll continue with the chapter which I started last week, the American War of Independence. Okay, so let's start with it. So let's start with the topic, the American War of Independence. So now we'll discuss about the beginning of the war, and then and how the United States came into existence, the birth of the United States of America, and then the result of the American War of Independence. Okay, so Boston Tea Party, as I've already taught you, the Boston Tea Party, that means American War of Independence was fueled up by the Boston Tea Party. It was like in 1773, the group of people, they boarded the ship which was loaded with tea boxes, and they threw the boxes into the sea. Okay, and with that the movement started, and the American War of Independence started. So beginning of the war, like all the 13 colonies, okay, in 1774 they met at Philadelphia. Met in Philadelphia to discuss about the burning issues like unnecessary dominance of the British government in their internal matters of the colonies. So in 1774, the representatives of all the 13 colonies met in Philadelphia. Okay, and there they requested the British ruler, the King George III, to withdraw all the unjust and oppressive acts. All the unjust and oppressive acts, they wanted it to be removed by the British ruler, that is the King George III of England. Now when this request was placed in front of the king, my dear, the king took it in a different way. The king regarded this act as a rebellion. That means these people are going against the British government. That is why they declared war on the 13 colonies to suppress them. To suppress them, they declared war. Actually, the war was not started by the colonists. In order to suppress the demands of the American colonists, 13 colonies, Britain declared war on American colonies. Okay. Now, what to do in order to survive, in order to save their life? They definitely need to protect themselves. So, the Americans, that is the colonists, they raised their own army. Okay, and then fighting broke out in Lexington, Concord in April 1775. So the colonists were now very much adamant and clear that now this is the right time to free ourselves from the British rule. So under the leadership of George Washington, my dear, okay, he was given the charge of a command. He was the commander-in-chief of their troops, and he led the army to fight against the British army. Okay, the American army, that means 13 colonies, they raised their army, and that army was under the command of George Washington. Okay, and then in 1776, when the war was still going on, and finally again, now what is the purpose of our war? What we want to achieve after the end of the war? What will be the result? What actually we demand from the British rule, or what actually we want to set up? Okay, so in 1776, the representatives met again. The 13 colonies representatives met again in Philadelphia, and there they signed a declaration of independence. Okay, they signed a declaration of independence. All together, unanimously, they signed the declaration of independence. What will be the future of the American colonies? What will be the future of American colonies? So, and this American Declaration of Independence, my dear, it clearly stated that American colonies had the right to free themselves from the oppressive and exploitative rule of the British government. Definitely, they have the right to free themselves from the exploitative as well as oppressive rule of the British rule. So that they declared in the American War of Independence. Okay, and they have the right to free themselves from the British government, and they even have the right to form their own government. So that was declared in the American War of Independence, in which the American representatives from 13 colonies, they signed it unanimously. Okay, then Declaration of Independence definitely contains some revolutionary ideas, and even it proclaimed that all men are born equal, okay, and are endowed with certain fundamental rights such as right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Right to life, liberty, and they definitely deserve happiness in their life. So that was the that was content in the American Declaration of Independence. Okay, Declaration of Independence. Got it? Now, finally, in the year 1781, the war continued, my dear. In 1781, my dear, war finally came to an end, in which the colonists became successful. Okay, colonists became successful. The British forces were very badly defeated, and then the treaty was signed. The Treaty of Paris was signed between the British government and the colonists. British government and the colonists, they signed a treaty in 1783, which was known as the Treaty of Paris. Treaty of Paris. Okay, and through this treaty, my dear, the British government recognized the independence of the 13 colonies, which came to be known as United States of America. 13 colonies were given independence, and then there was a birth of United States of America. Okay, USA, United States of America. Okay, so as you know that where America stands today, my dear, in about 200 years, my dear, the United States of America transformed itself into the most powerful country in the world. It is the unchallenged superpower in the world today, my dear. Okay, it is the unchallenged power in the world today. You know, everywhere, number one, America. Everywhere, who is number one? That means, let me tell you, number one country in the world is America. That is superpower country in the world is America. America is a superpower country in the world. Okay, so we can say that on 4th of July, every 4th of July, my dear, Americans celebrate their independence. 4th of July every year they celebrate as their Independence Day. Okay, and who became the first president of America? Definitely, who led the army? Who was the commander-in-chief? So definitely George Washington was the commander-in-chief, who later on became the first president of independent America. Okay, so now let us discuss about results of the war. Results of the war. So results of the war, my dear, what happened after the war? So definitely the American War of Independence not only brought freedom to the colonies, my dear, it even inspired the other countries of the world who were under the British rule. They were inspired to free themselves like the colonists freed themselves from the British rule. So result of American War of Independence, my dear. So American War of Independence ended the British rule. Okay, and due to the end of the British rule, okay, American colonies led to the emergence of United States of America. So end of British rule led to the emergence of United States of America. Then written constitution was framed. First time the written constitution was framed, constitution was written. Okay, and then this constitution declared America a federal democratic republic country. So what type of constitution was framed by them? A federal democratic republican government was set up. Federal democratic and republican government was set up. Okay, then this new government, the new government of America, my dear, guaranteed to all its citizens the right to freedom of speech, press, religion, justice under law. This was granted to each and every citizen of the each and every citizens of America, that is United States of America. Okay, the next one, the country would be ruled by the elected president, not by the chosen president, but by the elected president, who would govern according to the laws written down in the constitution. Okay, not according to his personal whims or fancies. So he will rule according to the constitution. Whatever written rules and laws are there in the constitution, he had to follow it, not by his own whims and fancies. Not that I want to do this or I want to do that. No, it's not like that. He cannot do anything which is beyond the constitution. He has to follow or rule the country according to the constitutional laws. Okay. And then in 1789, my dear, 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of United States of America. United States of America. Okay. So 1783 Treaty of Paris was signed, which ended the British rule and the birth of United States of America. Okay. And in 1789, my dear, you can see here, span of few years. In 1789, after the Constitution was written, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of United States of America. Okay. And then we understand that the Constitution of America, so framed, my dear, okay, served as a model and the inspiration to several countries of the world. Even Indian Constitution is inspired from the American Constitution, my dear. The framers of our Constitution, the framers of the Indian Constitution, my dear, adopted various features like federal form of government, incorporation of fundamental rights, okay, and systems of checks and balance, okay, in our Constitution. So we have a fundamental right, and this fundamental right we borrowed from American Constitution, because in American Constitution they call this fundamental right as the Bill of Rights. So there it is known as Bill of Rights, so we call it as the fundamental rights. Okay, they have a federal form of government. Even we also decided to go for a federal form of government. Okay, and checks and balance. So checks and balance means both the legislature and executive are checked by each other. Legislature checks over the executive and executive checks over the legislature. So there is a balance between legislature and executive. Okay, but there is a separation of judiciary from both legislature and executive. So these are some of the good features we have borrowed from the American Constitution. So American Constitution is the United States is one of the biggest democratic country in the world. Okay, largest democracy we can say. So democracy started from America and it spread to different parts of the world. So the American War of Independence inspired many other countries of the world. Even India was inspired, let me tell you, my dear. India was inspired because when these things, when national movement was going on in our country, my dear, when English education was introduced in our country, many of the students, they came to know about American War of Independence and all, right? So when they understood about American War of Independence, the motive behind the war, then they realized that if the American colonies, 13 colonies, if they could free themselves from the British government, why not we? So that was an inspiration for the Indian freedom strugglers. Okay, so American War of Independence inspired not only India, my dear. That time many countries were there which were under the control of the British. The British Empire was so vast, my dear. India was their colony. In Africa, many other countries were there under the control of the British. So they all were inspired with the American War of Independence. Okay, American War of Independence. So this is all about from this chapter. Okay, so American War of Independence, a great inspiration for the world at large. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Please do watch the previous video also if you have not watched it. Okay, so we'll meet again in next class. Till then, take care, stay safe, bye bye.